All right, let's check out the California weekend weather forecast, and we're actually going to be trying something new today. Stay tuned for the end of the forecast where I'll try my best to answer any questions or forecast requests that have been posted in the live chat. But first things first, let's take a look at the current conditions right now. We'll start by just looking at the satellite imagery where you can see the majority of California, especially through the Valley and the Bay Area, looking like it's relatively clear skies. Where we do have some clouds showing up are these high clouds streaming into Southern California, which we'll take a look at in the water vapor in a second. And then we also have some of these thicker clouds building into Northern California that actually has a chance of dropping a tiny bit of rain today. I say that without emphasizing tiny bit because I don't want to get you too excited. I'll show the rainfall accumulations in a second where you'll see that it's going to be very light rain, if any. So here's a look at that water vapor. It really shows that moisture flowing into Southern California, which is actually great for this time of the year because any moisture we can get, even if it's not rainfall, this moisture helps out our fuels to, pick up some moisture so that wildfire is less of a concern. Now, where we don't have all that moisture flowing in is up here in Northern California, and that's going to be important later in the video when I show that there's actually a fire weather watch going on throughout a number of locations in Northern California. So, main reason for that is because we have warm temperatures and high winds throughout this weekend. So, you can see why we have the warm temperatures right now. There's this bit of a ridge building over California, and then something rather interesting is going to be going on. There's almost a combination of two patterns over California that's making it a rather difficult forecast for what kind of conditions we're going to have throughout the day today. So typically where you see a big ridge like that, that means you're going to have warm temperatures, dry air. Then when you have a trough, something like that coming in, that's where you have cooler temperatures and even the possibility of rainfall. So notice that there's parts of California that are in a ridge and parts of California that are actually picking up a little bit of this trough. So that's going to be important to remember when we're looking at the warm temperatures, but also that possibility of some rainfall in NorCal. I'd say the overall trend, though, is that ridge pattern going on. So warm temperatures, dry air for the most part. And then as you see towards the end of the weekend, getting into Monday and Tuesday, that ridge is actually going to strengthen and get larger. So I'm expecting to see some high temperatures towards the start of next week. And we can actually start to look at these in a second. So this is always the first map I look at. Temperature anomaly is kind of a fancy way of saying how far off from your average are you. So for example, it looks like San Jose is 7 degrees warmer than they typically are at this point in time. So if your average is 70, this would be saying you're 77. That's not actually what's going on, but it's just an example. So let's see what's going on for this afternoon. You can see that complexity in the forecast. There's parts of Southern California where we had that little ridge pattern that are 10 to 15 degrees above average. But then you see the influence of that tiny little trough that's building in, making some of our temperatures in Northern California actually below average for this time of year. But if you just took one large snapshot across the state and tried to summarize it, I would say for the most part warmer than average temperatures for much of California, 10 to 15 degrees above average, and especially throughout the valley. That's what's going to be happening throughout this afternoon. So Saturday afternoon, there's going to be parts, especially in the Sacramento Valley, that are 15 to 20 degrees above average, although you do see places around the coast staying in more mild temperatures because we're getting that onshore flow, which blows in some of those cooler temps from the ocean. So let's take a look at Sunday, and we'll focus on Sunday afternoon because that might be when you're going outside enjoying the warm temperatures that we will be having. And you can see those warm temps will actually start to almost strengthen as we get into Sunday afternoon, especially throughout the valley there. We're still 10 to 20 degrees above average, but again, a bit of a weird forecast. We still have some parts in northeastern California, the southern Sierras, and stretching down into San Diego that actually appear to be below average. So I know that was probably long-winded and even a little bit confusing, so let's actually just dive into the actual temperatures that we'll be expecting throughout the day today. So we'll look at what they are about right now. We see a 61 in San Francisco, 72 in Santa Rosa. Chico, you're at 72 degrees already, Sacramento 70. Then let's check out what kind of temps we can expect for our highs this afternoon. Looks like Sacramento could be getting up to 82. Our high looks to be in Yuba City, getting up to 85. San Francisco, it actually says you're going to cool down a little bit as those winds start to pick up and blow more of that cool air from the ocean over your location. So now let's check out the highs for tomorrow. And if we go back, 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 84, 85, 82. I'm focusing on this because I want to see what the trend is doing tomorrow. If we go towards Sunday, we got 82, 85, 85. So maybe a little bit of a warm-up for our Sunday afternoon, but for the most part, it's around the same temperatures. 64 in San Francisco, that's certainly a warm-up from the high we're seeing today. San Jose getting up to 69 Sunday afternoon. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, the other factor that's going on are some of those winds, and not as much of a factor right now throughout much of Northern California. You see, for the most part, weak winds, especially throughout the valley, and this is showing gusts. So if you have 15 to 20 mile per hour gusts, that means your sustained winds are more like 5 to 15 miles an hour. Where it is windy, though, is there in San Francisco, 32 mile per hour gusts right now. Again, that's what's keeping your temperatures cooler. That's blowing in that ocean air. If we look at this afternoon, much of Northern California, or this is now getting into Saturday early morning. So let's go back. I think that was on a weird time right there. So we want to look at Saturday, 11 a.m. That's what we're talking about, where it's San Francisco, rather windy. Getting into this afternoon, that's where the winds are going to be picking up, especially over San Francisco. Again, valley, not as windy. San Francisco, the windiest place, that's why your temperatures are cooler. Sorry for the confusion right there. So let's look at Sunday. You can see that the winds on Sunday are looking much stronger, and especially throughout the valley. So where the highs on the winds today, Saturday 5 p.m., we're 10 to 15 mile per hour gusts throughout the valley. If we go to Sunday afternoon, those are turning into 30 to 40 mile per hour winds. And the reason that's important is because a newly issued fire weather watch has just been put in place. It's actually not even showing up on the warnings map on the weather website I use for graphics, so had to go to the National Weather Service to get this. Looks like it's Sunday, May 2nd. Again, that's because those winds are picking up throughout the valley, where you see this fire weather watch in place through Tuesday, May 4th. So what that means is there's easier potential for fire starts, potential for rapid spread of fire, and again, it's Sunday to Tuesday because of those strong winds. We have dry air. We showed that in the satellite imagery there. We got some moisture over SoCal, dry air over Northern California. So if you've been watching this channel for any period of time where I was doing those wildfire forecast videos last season, I always talked about warm temperatures, dry air, and winds, and we do have the combination of all three of those, especially over the valley here. I would say, now take this with a grain of salt, because whenever the National Weather Service issues something, you should take it seriously, but I think it's still a little bit early in the season to be very worried about any major wildfire starting. I certainly am knocking on wood right now, but a lot of our fuels are still enjoying some of that rainfall we picked up over the winter. Even though it wasn't all that much rainfall and they are drier than average, we still have some moisture in the fuels, especially with that last little rain that came through. So I'm not actually too worried about this fire weather watch right now. I think it's a little bit early for that kind of worry. What you could take this as a sign of is now might be a good time to actually start thinking about wildfire, clearing up any debris that might be around your house, getting that 100-foot perimeter. I know that last year I actually waited to do the fire clearing around my house until the fires had already started, which is a mistake I'll never make again because I was outside doing a bunch of manual work and it was about 100 degrees, raining ash, and certainly not going to make that mistake again. So I might even start doing that this Sunday as well. Now, the one thing on this map that you may have been hoping I would mention is this thunderstorms today, because that's certainly news, and it looks like there is the potential for some thunderstorms up in northeastern parts of California from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. throughout the day today. Small accumulating hail, brief downpours, and gusty winds. So if we actually want to see the potential for any rainfall that could be coming in, looks like it might have already even started up along the north coast. Some of that light rain building in, then moving into more north central California. I don't know if that's a good way to describe where that is. Right on the northern California-Oregon border, that rain starts to spread out. And then as we get into this afternoon, that's where we might have the potential for some of those thunderstorms. Again, that showed 3 to 7 p.m., and we can actually see that rainfall popping up on this map at about 5 p.m. So if you live in this area, be sure to send me any videos of any thunderstorms that you might get, and that's certainly a good thing to think about. So now what you might be wondering is how much rain are we going to be picking up with this rain that's coming in? Because California could certainly use some rainfall, but unfortunately, it's not looking like too impressive of a storm. Again, we looked at that trough earlier. It was mostly going through Washington and Oregon. We were just getting the very tail end of it, and you can see that. 0.1 inches, I would say, at the most. And most places might even be about 0.05 inches of rainfall. We'll have to keep our eye on northeastern California here, though, to see if we do end up getting any of those thunderstorms. So not a lot of rainfall, but we'll certainly take whatever we can get at this point in the season. So there is that fire weather watch going on in Northern California. It's not popping up on this map yet because they just issued it, but you do see that high wind warning going on in Southern California. And one thing to actually note here is right now we just have the fire weather watch over California. That's a way of saying, keep your eye on this. When it actually turns into a red flag warning, which is where you have to really start taking it seriously, that's when you start to see this pink color here, which means that's where critical fire weather is in place. But right now, you can see those high wind warnings over Southern California, so we can actually take a look at those. We'll go to this afternoon, because that's when we're really going to start to see them pick up. You can see in parts of the southern Sierras working into the valley, seeing some gusts up to 30, maybe even 50 miles per hour, where you see that yellow color there. And then also down here, going all the way down into the Mexico border, seeing those 30 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts, while our cities are a little lighter. Los Angeles just 22, San Diego 18. So then let's check out tomorrow afternoon, because it's actually going to start to spread a little bit farther west, farther into the valley, like Bakersfield, between Bakersfield and Lancaster. That's where we're going to have that blob of 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts, which is certainly significant. So that's why that high wind warning is in place. Although in your major cities, Los Angeles, just expected to be 25, San Diego, you're looking the same. So winds certainly a factor, but it's good to see that they're not too strong in our major cities. So those winds are also going to be combined with some warm temperatures. So I'm purposely showing you the warm temperatures from yesterday to show you what the trend is going to be looking like. So this is Friday at 5 p.m. That's close to what your highs were. Bakersfield hit 96, Los Angeles was 83. We even had a couple triple digits down here in El Centro and Yuma and Indio, getting up above 100 degrees. So if we look at what we're expecting this afternoon, so Saturday afternoon, you can see some of those temperatures are starting to come down. Bakersfield, your high is forecast to be 89, Los Angeles 70, San Diego 60, and then where we had all those triple digits, now Indio and El Centro are working into the mid-90s instead. So let's look at your highs for Sunday, and it looks like it's maybe even a little bit cooler than we're going to be seeing throughout the day today. That's certainly true for Indio and El Centro. San Diego, about the same. You're close to the coast, so your temperatures are more moderated. Los Angeles, your high tomorrow is expected to be 69. Bakersfield, you're at 84. San Luis Obispo, you're going to be most likely seeing some beautiful weather, probably nice 70 to 75 degree weather right along the central coast there. In Salinas, you're actually expected to be 61. Again, that's because that onshore flow bringing in some of those cooler temperatures. So this is something we always talk about in these forecast videos, the California drought. Unfortunately, I don't think that 0.1 inches of rain we're getting throughout the day in very northern California is going to put any big dent in this. So what I want to do is take a look at the extended forecast to see if there's any hope for maybe one last big storm to bring in some rainfall. So one way to do that is just to look at the Climate Prediction Center outlooks. This is showing the 6 to 10 day temperature prediction. So if you're blue, it's predicted that you're going to be below average temperatures. Red is above average temperatures. And you can see that our forecast period 6 to 10 days out, they're thinking we're going to be above average temperatures. What we're really interested in though is that precipitation. And unfortunately, it looks like Washington is getting all the precipitation while they're expecting Northern California to remain dry. We can change that forecast period to 8 to 14 days out. And once again, California looking like we're going to be warmer than average. I think that's because of that large ridge that seems to be building in and staying in place. And then once again, we're expected to see drier than average conditions. So that's certainly not what we want to see. This is the point in when looking at weather forecasts that you start to actually be happy that most of the time they're not all that accurate, and especially more than 3 days out. So just for fun, let's take a look and see if there's any kind of trough coming in. Again, there's that little trough that could be bringing those thunderstorms to very northeastern California today. After that, like I said, there's that large ridge building in. That's why we're seeing those warmer, dry conditions. And then let's just keep clicking just for fun. I usually don't go this far in the weather forecast because this is where the confidence in the models goes way down. But I want to end on some kind of high note so that we have something to possibly look forward to and some kind of hope in the forecast. Looks like on May 7th, there could be a chance of some kind of low pressure system or trough coming in. That, as of right now, would most likely bring some rain to Northern California. So there is some hope. But again, don't get excited about it yet. Never trust a weather forecast model more than 3 days out, but we'll certainly be keeping our eye on this to see if it could come together in the next week. So next thing I want to do, I'll see if there have been any comments posted in the live chat. And then if there have, I will try to answer any questions that you might have had. And that would include forecast requests too. So Lucy Hansen said, still dancing for rain. I would say we should all start doing that at this point because it looks like we certainly need it. Much of Northern California is in that severe drought. The drought in Southern California actually expanded to the coast. We weren't seeing this like bright red color all the way to the coast down here about 2 weeks ago. And in the last 2 weeks, that's actually expanded. Again, throughout this rainy season, we're at about 50% of our average rainfall. A lot of our snowpack is about 75% of what it should be this time of year. A lot of our reservoirs are looking a bit on the low side. So we are certainly going to be dancing for some rain. We could certainly use it. Great comment there, Lucy. So the next one we have, what are your predictions for, this is from some lady. What are your predictions for this coming fire season considering everything that burned last year? So I would say there's a few interesting points brought up just in that question. So based on the areas that burned last year, I think this is what some lady is trying to get at, is where you have a fire in the past, in that burn scar, it's actually less likely to have a fire there in the future because a lot of the fuels have burned out. We saw that perfectly. Oh, check this out. NC Webb Creek Fire. There's a great map that shows exactly the point I'm trying to make right here. What it means is where you had a fire in the past, it makes it less likely for a fire to occur there in the future because a lot of the fuels have been burnt out. So if we actually look at the Creek Fire map, so right here, you see where this fire just stopped on this northeastern edge? That was because it actually moved into the Lion's Fire burn scar. So this is where a fire had previously occurred in the past, and that just stopped the creek fire in its tracks in that location. So the good news there is any places that picked up fire last season, it's a lot less likely that those places are going to burn this season. For example, inside this creek fire burn area, we most likely wouldn't have another major fire this season. Now, with that being said, the large majority of California did not burn last season, which is certainly a good thing. But that means there's certainly a lot of fuels left. And San Jose State just did a evaluation of the fuel moistures, and unfortunately our fuel moistures are looking much drier than they've honestly ever looked in the past. So the fuels are dry. That's certainly not good news. Where there is some good news, I would say this is actually a great thing to think about if you're especially worried about wildfires, is last season was weird. To put it just frankly, last season was very weird, and it was because of that crazy lightning event that started and kicked off the fire season. If you live in California, you probably remember that lightning event because, I mean, I've lived here my entire life in the North Bay, the Central Coast, now the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I mean, I'm not all that old, but I certainly couldn't remember any lightning event like that happening in my lifetime. I found one example that happened about 10 years ago. I don't remember that, but that lightning event was very rare. And that's the one that started fires all the way across the state. I think it started about 500 fires, basically overwhelmed our CAL FIRE resources. So if you need some good news, think about the fact that the likelihood of a lightning event like that happening again is very low. But with that being said, always have to be worried about wildfire in California, especially with that lack of rainfall that we've got this last season. So I guess if you have any takeaway, it's now would be the time to start doing some wildfire preparation. But if I had to make my prediction, I would say it's not going to be as bad as last year, because I don't think we're going to get another ridiculous lightning event like we did last year. So we just got another comment from Mayos. What's your favorite microclimate in the Bay and why? That is a great question, and I think I'm going to have to go with the Santa Cruz area. There's something about Santa Cruz that maybe it's because a lot of the time we have northerly winds, so that brings in warmer temperatures from inland. But Santa Cruz, right along the coast, it seems like there's just so many days there that are just sunny, not all that windy, seems to just be perfect. And then especially if you're going to the Pleasure Point area, seems like everybody there is just happy. The surf seems like it's always good. For example, I bet if we look at Surfline right now, there is a good chance that Santa Cruz is just absolutely beautiful. So we'll look at Steamer Lane, and what do you know, Santa Cruz looks absolutely beautiful. Oh, I'm not signed in, so we're seeing an advertisement. I'll just sign in here real quick. And, never mind on that one. Basically, you know what I'm saying. Santa Cruz, very beautiful. You can actually see the little snapshot right there. Certainly my favorite microclimate, and that's definitely my plan of where I want to live in the future. So, I think that's all the questions that we've had so far. If I'll maybe give you 30 seconds, anybody else who wants to ask a question. In the meantime, I could just give a summary of everything we've talked about. Dry air over much of Northern California, clouds coming in. We have some moisture going into Southern California. That's why even though we have warm temperatures and high winds down there, not seeing that fire weather watch in SoCal. Where we do have the fire weather watch is up here in Northern California. Again, that's because those warm temperatures, the dry air, the strong winds, but it's not a red flag warning yet, so I don't think we have to be too concerned about this yet, but we'll certainly keep our eye on it. Then when it comes to the temperatures throughout, there's also the possibility of some thunderstorms up there in northeastern California. That was certainly an interesting part of the story. The other most important thing is probably your high temperatures today and tomorrow. Mid 80s throughout much of the valley for your highs today. Along the coast, more moderated temperatures, around 60 to 70 degrees. If we look at the high temperatures for tomorrow, for the most part, low to mid 80s in the valley. Similar temperatures along the coast. And then again, those winds are going to be coming up on Sunday throughout the valley, getting up to 30, 40 miles per hour. That's why we have that fire weather watch in place. Then in Southern California, that's where we have that high wind warning. We also have some warm temperatures down there being mixed with these wind gusts, getting up to 40, 50 miles per hour in some cases. So there's your temperatures. We'll check out the highs for this afternoon. You can see that Los Angeles, your high is expected to be 70 today. San Diego, 60. Farther inland, that's where it gets very warm, up into the mid-90s. If we look at tomorrow, we've got, I would say, a cooling trend. Los Angeles, just 69. San Diego, 59. And then some of those warmer desert locations getting into the mid-80s. So not seeing any more questions popping up. So hopefully this weather forecast was interesting today. It was the first time I've tried to answer live questions. So it was a test run. Hopefully it was all right. I'll certainly try to keep doing that in the future because I think that's a fun, interactive way to do a forecast like this. So thanks for watching, and I hope you all enjoy the beautiful warm weather that we're going to be having throughout the weekend.